The pool of talent we currently have in the NBA is amongst the deepest pools we've ever had in league history. No rival leagues, improved medical knowledge, and the worldwide popularity of the sport being the main factors in the creation of such a pool. With the amount of skill we got in today's league, it'd be an absolute crime for us not to discuss the skill that makes each of the best players in the world the best. And what better way is there to do that than a top 25 player ranking? A format that is bound to piss off the highest percentage of people, but hey, at least we can talk about the top 1% of the sport and give them all their flowers. So if you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe, drop your reactions to our list down below in the comment section, share the video with a friend, and welcome to the Sweatshop's Top 25, 21 through 25. What's up, Sweatshoppers? We got a jam-packed episode for you today, so we're gonna try to keep our intro as brief as possible. If you want a more in-depth conversation on our honorable mentions and or the criteria of our list, then go ahead and watch our most recent video. But just a brief summary of what we talked about there. This video is the beginning of our top 25 player series in which we list the top 25 players in the league based off the following criteria. How good are you at winning? Not the aesthetics of their game or how likable the player is, just if you are the best player on my team, how high is my confidence in our squad? How much trash am I talking to my friends? My confidence in each player is based off of three things: statistics, gameplay, and history. And I will do my best to incorporate all three in my explanations for each player ranking. In addition to these rankings, because I know my confidence is very subjective, I have provided a range of rankings for each player that essentially shows where I think it's feasible to place the player in question. If you rank a player within my range, we won't have an argument. If you rank them outside my range though, either higher or lower, then we can have a very spirited debate. I will also be taking into account projections for the upcoming season for younger and up-and-coming players. I will try to remain somewhat conservative with those in the official rankings and use the ranges to really encapsulate my irresponsible pie-in-the-sky projections. And finally, this ain't 2K, it's real life. Injuries are on for this, bucko. You cannot help your team win if you are not on the court, period. I left Kawhi and Zion off this list because they are the two star players with by far the least trustworthy availability in the league. And for the guys who actually appear on my list, their durability, or lack thereof, will have the potential to move them up or down multiple spots. That is all I got. With all of the exposition out of the way, let's get into the plot. Starting with number 25, Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey's consistent 2K-like progression must be studied. I mean, it's almost linear how good this dude gets every season. He went from solid rotation guy to elite six-man to high-level starter to all-star second option year after year after year. Like, as of 2024, you could have conceivably given Tyrese a most improved player award every year of his career and no one would call you idiotic. Maxey's almost formulaic growth shows that he has a work ethic that a previous 76ers guard, forward, scarecrow, whatever the fuck Ben Simmons was for the Sixers, I don't know. I'm just saying it must be nice for Philly fans to go from someone that legitimately did not improve a single day in his career to someone whose progression mirrors AJ Hawk's left pinky. And this ain't just a numbers thing. You can see it in his game too. Maxey has turned into a monster. Tyrese is the real life Zenitsu on the court, minus the goober stuff. Like, this man's movement is crazy. For real, blink and you miss it type game. Westbrook, John Wall, Ish Smith, De'Aaron Fox type speed. The difference between Maxey and these other track meet point guards I've mentioned though is Tyrese has a clip, no sneako. He's the first I think I've seen in this archetype who boasts a behind the arc game that almost rivals his speed. He ain't hardened behind the line with the creation or anything, but he's shooting at close to 40% for his career on decent volume. So you gotta more than respect the shot, and that just give him easy lanes to the hoop. And then on top of that, every year he's been in the playoffs, he's done at the very least pretty good, and recently he's excelled. All of this is why I got him here at 25 and over someone like Kyrie. Yes, Kyrie is more talented than Reese, but Maxey to me is more dynamic because of his speed. He don't need to dominate the ball to get his. And then there are the other non-basketball factors that I take into account with my rankings. For Reese's ceiling, if everything breaks absolutely perfect for him this year, I could see him going as high as 20. That's right, 2-0. I really think that PG edition gonna take take him to the next level, make him more efficient offensively, and then maybe without having to carry the team's entire perimeter creation load, maybe we see Tyrese harness his elite quickness on the defensive end and really turn into a two-way monster. Reese is still undersized though, he's young, he ain't had a ton of success yet, and I do wish when he was on the court alone without Embiid, it didn't feel like there was a big drop-off. Like, a drop-off is understandable. Surprise, surprise, Embiid is in my top 10 in the league. Someone like that ain't playing you, bound to be worse. But Philadelphia goes from contender to capture the flag candidate real quick when Embiid is on his yearly in-season vacation. And I feel like Maxey should be good enough to keep them afloat a little better. So if you want to have guys like Kyrie, Cat, even someone like Jamal Murray over him, then I wouldn't be too upset. I am applying quite a bit of projection to this ranking. Not a lot, but a fair amount. So if you guys want to have players that have proven it up to now, but maybe have a more defined ceiling, then I wouldn't be too mad at that. Number 24. Bam Bam. As far as star players go, I feel like Bam Adebayo is one of the more underrated ones. He's not crazy underrated or anything, but I feel like he should get a little more credit than he does get as a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. The value of being that level of defender probably gets a bit lowballed because they gave Rudy Gobert 3 of them things. Wait, Rudy Gobert has 4 defensive player of the year awards? Rudy Gobert has 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. That alone, rightfully so, should take down the value of that award a little bit. But don't let the NBA media's idiotic nature overshadow the value that an elite defender has just because they keep giving the awards to the wrong people. Having a defender that's on Bam's level almost always guarantees you to have a top 10-ish defense in the league. And if you have someone that provides guarantees like that, it allows you to put a bit more focus into other areas of your roster. Hey, maybe we can get a scoring wing player that's not as good as a defender, since Bam can cover up their mistakes a little bit. He's the garbage man of the NBA. He ain't doing nothing flashy, but if he quit his job, things will get spooky real quick. The thing that makes Bam so good defensively isn't necessarily the thing that makes most bigs good defensively. He isn't an overwhelmingly good rim protector, a la Rudy Gobert, as I mentioned earlier. He's just uber versatile. Probably the most versatile big in the league, or at least was the most versatile before this dickhead popped out of his hyperbaric chamber. The 2023 playoffs encapsulated this versatility perfectly. This man went from switching on to Jason Tatum and guarding him without help to guarding Nikola Jokic in the finals without help. Now, is he the best in the world at either of those? No. Jokic gave him absurd work like he does everybody else, and Tatum still got his to some degree. But the fact that he's like 80th to 90th percentile at both skills and really all things defensively opens up so many defensive game plans for you to use as a coach. Most defensive anchors are defensive anchors in one particular scheme. Bam can be a defensive anchor in pretty much every scheme. And then on top of that, the brother's offensive game has been consistently progressing. Each year it feels like he's getting better and better at the mid-range and offensive creation. And his passing, he running points on the fast breaks more often. Hell, he'll probably add a consistent three-point shot here in the next couple years. And it's these consistent and constant offensive progressions in combination with his defensive talents that has him at 24 for me. If you value his offense a little more though, and or you think he's gonna take that next step this year, I can see him going as high as 21. I really can't see him going lower than 26 to me, so kind of narrow range, but that's about where I got him. Before we get to player number 23, why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe? It don't cost a thing, it helps the channel out a ton, and it lets you know when the sweatshop posts a video. And if you've made it this far in this video, then we know you'll like the rest of our content, so just go ahead and join the family. But on to player number 23, Paolo Banchero. This may be high for a lot of people, but I really like Paolo. Like, really like him. If I were to create the perfect wing player to build my team around, they'd probably look almost identical to Paolo. 6 foot 10 inches, 250 pounds, solid athleticism, 3-level scorer, solid defense, and B+ to A- passing IQ. He's also the first person we've seen on this list be the best player on a playoff team. Like, Paolo is the perfect modern wing to build around. He just young and don't know what he don't know yet. For Paolo, this manifests in his playmaking and his scoring game not really being linked up. What do I mean by this? Well, the best perimeter playmakers, and really playmakers in general, they reach that next level of offensive creation when they can effectively marry their scoring game and passing game. Think Trae Young on the pick and roll with the big and drop coverage. When Trae getting ready to go up and he in this position, the big gotta choose. Am I gonna go for the block or am I gonna try to stop the oop? And Trae Young is one of the best in the league at making the big pay for whatever whatever decision he makes. This is one example of the concept everyone refers to as taking what the defense gives you. This is, I think, the ideal approach a number one scoring option can take in any given offensive possession, as it theoretically should lead to the best possible outcome given you make the correct reaction to the defense. Paolo's main issue to me is that he isn't making a reaction to the defense. To me, again, it seems like he is predetermining what he's going to do before he even sees the defense. A lot of the time, this means he's a bit too quick to pass the ball and should be a bit more aggressive on his penetration, and sometimes this means he's a bit too aggressive and should get the ball moving a little more. The good thing for Paolo is, though, I think his basketball IQ is high enough and he's young enough that the fix is just gonna come with experience and letting the game slow down for him. And I mean, he's in year 3, he's already got some playoff XP against a good defensive team, and even though his numbers don't reflect how up and down he was, for a 21-year-old, he had a really solid postseason. I also want to give Paolo some credit for degree of difficulty. The argument can be made that Paolo had the highest degree of difficulty out of anyone on this list. There is only one player on this list whose team's collective three-point percentage was worse than the Orlando Magic, which means that out of everyone on this list, Paolo was dealing with the least amount of spacing, or I mean second least, and when you watch the tape you can really tell. So just want to give Paolo a little bit more of a bump because he was really dealing with debatably the highest, or I guess second highest degree of difficulty out of all the shot creators in this list. So I'm anticipating a lot of growth for Paolo. So much growth that for the upper part of that range, I'm puffing on that DOGG and saying Paolo can legitimately broach top 15 player discussion. If he reaches his ceiling for this year, there is no doubt in my mind that he can start some All-NBA conversations. For his floor though, if he stays stagnant and does not improve at all from last season, I could see him as low as 26. Number 22, De'Aaron Swiper the Fox. Not much to say about De'Aaron. I feel like he's the first one on this list that the general public has a decent amount of knowledge on, and really I got just nothing crazy to yap about. Elite athletic guard and driver of the basketball, solid playmaker, good defender when he puts in effort on that end of the court. I really like Swiper. My one thing that I think is a little off with him is now that he's improved his mid-range shot and his three-point shot, it feels like he leans on those a bit too much, especially when his speed and finishing are still at the top of the league. No premature ejaculation. When you are as good as De'Aaron is at driving and you have a shot that's just above average but not necessarily top tier, pull-ups should never be something you look for. They should be something you go to when the defense sells out to stop your drive. On top of this offensive philosophy that I think takes a little away from De'Aaron's potency, much like Kyrie, De'Aaron isn't elite at anything other than scoring. He's a good playmaker. When he gives effort, he's a good defender. But when you're a PG and being asked to lead a team, I don't know, I want something a little more. Still a really good player. I had him up here for a reason. For the range, I can see him going as low as 25 if you're really high on Tyrese and you value Bam's offense more than I do. Putting De'Aaron lower than Kyrie is kind of where I draw the line though, just because we saw De'Aaron be the best player on a playoff team just last year. We've only seen Kyrie do that once in his career, and that was over 8 years ago. And also with the injury history, I just don't think you can expect that from this version of Kyrie. As for the highest I can see De'Aaron going, I'll say 19. And finally, numero 21, Damian Lillard. Dame Dollar, haha, Dame time. Damian Lillard is still Damian Lillard. There's not much else to say about that. Elite shot creation, B+ all-around point guard game, and the most absurd range you've ever seen this side of Stephen Curry. He's him, and he's been him for pretty much his whole career, so why is he so low? Why is he chumming it with the likes of... I mean, all these guys are pretty good, but I had Damian at 12 last year. Why has he dropped all the way to 21? And the answer to that question is really simple. Dame ain't been Dame Dollar in a minute. More like Dame 90 cents on the dollar. 2021, he's dealing with core injuries all year and looks just not himself. 2022 averages an absurd 32.5 points per game, but does it on a very bad team and was getting DMPs by the end of the year so they could tank. And then last year, he gets traded to Milwaukee and just looks... blah. One of the most inefficient seasons of his career, and a season which culminated in a very short playoff stint due to injuries to both him and his partner in crime. Dame just hasn't done anything in a minute, and on top of his inability to get shit done over the past few seasons, he got some holes in his game that has me a bit hesitant to trust him being anything more than a low-level number one. Specifically his lack of defense and his inability to provide superstar impact if his shot ain't falling. And not even just shot in general, like his three-point shot. His three-point shot is the most important part of his game, and if it's not falling for him, it's hard for him to really show that superstar impact. When his three-point shot is falling though, he exhibits an area of gravity only exceeded by Steph Curry and Rick Ross. And that gravity is why I got him up this high. If Dame can finally make things work with Giannis, which I think they can, I can see this going as high as 16. Worst case scenario though, I see him going as low as 25. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. We greatly appreciate it. If you enjoy this content, go ahead and like and subscribe. It's right down there for you. And make sure to hit that notification bell so YouTube can tell you when the next part of this series, 20 through 16, comes out. Comment down below what you agreed with, what you disagreed with, what you're excited for in the upcoming rankings. Share the video with a friend. And as always, stay sweaty, ladies and gentlemen.